Hello friends, welcome to the wonderful Armitage Games Studios, where you can come and join us on another Just Make Game adventure. Hello again everyone. What have I been up to lately? I have been making sprites, been fixing sprites mostly. So first thing I've been up to is fixing up those environmental kind of critters, I guess. Insects, bugs, worms, flies, stuff that's gonna just add a bit of flavor to the screen. So you got some movement happening. Not that they're not enemies, they're just there hanging out, adding a bit of atmosphere. So I made it so they're not so ugly. I recolored them, I touched them up, made them a bit more exciting. So they're all done. One of the big things that I have been working on is recoloring a lot of sprites. So I made this document. It's got all of the current enemy sprites on the background tiles for whatever level they're going to be in. So I went through and chucked all the sprites on their backgrounds. And then with Mike sitting next to me, I was like, which ones do you think is shit? Already knowing in my head which ones I thought needed extra work. And that lined up pretty good. He was like, that one needs work, that one needs work. Most of them needed a bit of work. So I have done a bunch of recoloring of the sprites. I have changed the shading on a lot of the sprites as well. And this has just made it a lot more cohesive. Especially considering I've been working on these sprites for years now. So as I have gotten better at pixel art, the sprites have gotten better, and it was really good just to go back and touch everything up and bring everything up to the same standard. The other reason it was really good to do that is because we put all of the sprites from one level together. We could make sure the colors were a little bit cohesive from level to level as well. So that was really good, really useful. I'm really happy with how all of the sprites are looking now. All of those enemy sprites looking really good. Also started work on the boss for the water level. So I got really frustrated doing this. I'll show you some of my progress. But Mike stepped in and had a bit of a go, and he's come up with a really nice design for it. It is not animated yet. We're still ironing out the details of how it is going to be animated and how it's going to attack. So we're planning something a little bit different for this boss, I guess. So stay tuned. We'll work that out. But the design of that boss looks really good, I think. I think it looks great. All right, so no images to show you yet for this one because we can keep it a surprise for a little bit longer. But I've started playing around with some of the objects and some of the tiles for the 4th tile set. That last kind of stage of the game, which is exciting. Mike hasn't had a chance to have a look at them yet. We said in the last video that Mike wants to have a bit of a play around with the tile set for these ones as well. So we've been having a bit of a look at that and some of the objects that are going to go with that tile set. And another thing with no visuals to show you, because as much as I think lists are very exciting, I understand no one else thinks lists are very exciting, but I have been making a big list of...
Yay, lists!
I really like lists, okay? I just do. I have been making a huge list of all the things that the god is going to do. So all of the god interactions with the player and all of the commandments that are going to happen. Now, I'm not going to go through any of these really. They're all pretty cool and exciting and hopefully are going to make the game really fun, but we don't want to spoil it all. I'm not going to be like, this is a really cool one and this is a really cool one to look out for. We're just going to try and make heaps of them. So every playthrough is going to be a bit different. But you're going to have a play or wait a bit longer to find out some of the things that the god's going to do. And as part of this exciting list making adventure I'm going on, I'm also trying to identify any other animations that the god needs as well. So when the god interacts or when a commandment comes up that you have to try not to break, the god's going to animate. It's going to show you that something's going on, that you're having this interaction. So as well as all the animations that are already done for the god, like there's certain ones that are missing that I'm coming across as I'm doing these lists. So I'm just noting down, oh, we need an animation for when this happens. The god needs to do this when this happens. So there will be a lot more god animations in my near future. So that's all the things that I have been up to and all the things that I need to continue working on. Yeah, and it's exciting because I really like doing the god animations. I am looking forward to doing some more of those. Okay, that's me done. Catch you next time.
Now it is my turn! I've forgotten how to focus. There we go. Oh. Hello! It's been a little while. How are you all? I am well. Thank you for asking. Alright, so, I think we've sort of missed a video in here because the last video we did, instead of doing a Just Make Game, we made, the video about sound effects and sound editing and that sort of thing. So if you've seen that, I hope you liked it. That video was painful to make because camera kept eating the footage. So we formatted the SD card and all that sort of thing, and hopefully it doesn't do it again. But we had to reshoot a bunch of that, and that's why about halfway through that video I start looking like this. And I'm quite grumpy. But yes, in line with sound and videos on sound, most of what I've been doing lately is sound. I've been doing sound effects for, well, lots of things. I've got sound effects in for all of the different player weapons, I think. There might be one or two I've missed in there, but the vast majority of player weapons all have their own unique sounds, and that means all those different types of guns all have their own unique sounds, which, yeah, there's a lot of them, so that took a while to do. There's things like footstep sounds and other sounds in impact sounds for hitting squishy things and that sort of deal. But, yeah, sounds. Been doing lots of sounds. Here's some sounds. Listen to the sound. Oh, they sound lovely. We'll also be doing lots of other things with like the death screen and the player actually dying, and you know, sort of recording info that happened during your playthrough, and then you know it's going to be displayed on this screen and used for various things. For example, unlocking things over different runs. At the moment, it just kind of stores it all in the background and you don't see any of it, but I can use it to do things later. I've done more work on menus. All the menus now sort of work, whereas before some of them worked and some of them didn't. So now they all generally work. Everything seems to function more or less correctly. The only thing that doesn't really exist right now is like rebinding your keys and that sort of jazz. I tend to always sort of do that right at the end, because, I mean, your control setup can change right up to the last second of sort of making the game. You might go, oh, geez, we really do need an extra key just for this, so I like to put that stuff in last. Also, it's really boring, so I put that right at the end because I don't like doing that sort of stuff. Like, I don't know who likes making menus out there, especially, like, you know, rebinding key menus and, you know, sliders for your volume options and stuff. But if you do, then great. Good job. I hate it. I also, yeah, when I was putting the sounds in, I had to make a sound system for positional sounds as well. So that's, you know, like things being played off screen, being quieter and, you know, in the appropriate speaker and, you know, getting louder as it gets closer and that sort of thing. So that is all in now so that you can hear people running up on you and they go as they get closer. I've also been playing around with the level generation as well. I know at the moment all we ever show is just this first level, and that's because the generation for, or getting the tiles drawn for the other levels that we've done, so that water level and that sort of thing that you've seen the tiles for, they all draw all over the spot still, and for a while I was kind of concerned about getting that in, but I had other things to do, so it's rapidly getting to the point where I have to fix that and get it in. But, so I've been playing around with level generation, especially with those levels in mind. I've been putting in a bunch of sanity checks, so it checks, for example, when it generates the level. Once it's done, it goes, how far away did I put the exit? Is it just around the corner? If it is, scratch it and start again. That sort of thing, because the way it does generate, it could, theoretically, put the exit right next to where you came in, and you don't really want that. And yeah, a couple other checks, like making sure there's enough enemies or not too many enemies and all that sort of thing, because they spawn sort of, it draws the level and they spawn logically in spaces where they can, but the level could, for example, generate in a way that it basically means that there's only like 3 enemies can spawn, and if that does happen, then now it bins it and starts again. That sort of thing. It didn't do that previously, and every now and then, sort of, I wanted to say like 1 in every 50 generations, you'd spawn a level and run around and kind of go, there's no one here. Or you'd spawn it and you go, the exit's right next to the start. I should really get around to fixing that at some point. So that is now all fixed, and I can build on that, obviously, and, you know, check for all sorts of other things. But at the moment, it's just kind of basic sanity checks and that sort of thing. I mean, that's really most of it. It's just kind of more of the game. Shortly, it will be getting up to the point where I do have to get those other tile sets drawn, and once they're in, then all the enemies from those other levels can go in. They're all really quick to do because I've got all these enemy systems in place already for the enemies I've done, so you just kind of grab the animation and throw it in, and, you know, then set up their attack and their health and let them go, because the AI and everything's there for most enemy types so far, and even if they do something different, which I don't think really any of them really do, you know, it's not hard to bodge up something quickly. So, yeah, it's starting to get to the point where after it's all appeared that it's been sitting there, kind of nothing really happening, it's gonna sort of quickly go, oh, bang, look, the game's finished. Yeah, and that probably won't be that far away, really. Yeah, it's good.
This episode of Just Make Game presented in Batesy Vision.
Major funding for this episode of Just Make Game was provided by Vin Hill, Tyler Hiles,
Stumpy,
Roman Kovalev, Philip Sparks,
Mark Mulready,
Mitch,
Max Windsor,
Kurt Wagner,
Jason Tom Lee, Ivan Makarovich, Evan N., Connor Bowen, Charlie Harper, Ben Kersnowski, Batesy, Alan Pask, and viewers like you.
Oh, actually, I will say as well, some people have asked, as well, they're like, how come this game is taking so long? They're like, what's the go? You did Bannerman in, like, I don't know, 2 and a bit years, or something like that. You know, and this one's sort of stretching out and out. It's like, what's going on? There's 2 of you now instead of 1. So, well, first of all, this game is bigger, and it is more complex to do. It might not have intentionally been that way when we started. We intended to make something that was about the same size as Bannerman, but being how this is all procedural and it's generated differently, we just kind of buggered it and ended up making something bigger accidentally, which, you know, that happens. Also, yes, there's 2 of us working on it, but we're not working sort of as much as I was on Bannerman. When I was doing Bannerman, I basically worked most waking hours. I'd wake up, work on the game, Haley would come home from her full-time job, I would stop for like a couple of hours while Haley was there, and then she'd go to sleep. You know, we'd have dinner and all that, she'd go to sleep, and then I'd keep going. And then I'd go to sleep, and I'd wake up and I'd start in the game. And that was like all I did for like 2.5 years. I nearly went insane. So we actually kind of work like normal hours now, so, you know, we go, oh, you know, time to stop, and then we stop, and then we don't work on it anymore. So that's why it is taking longer than it did for Bannerman, but it's also why Well, I especially noticed that I'm not redoing a bunch of stuff that I buggered up because I did it at like 5 a.m. With my eyes like this. And I was just trying to get stuff done and panicking about it and that sort of thing. So you can probably tell I'm much happier these days than I was then. If you watch some of those videos, I'm like this. Especially towards the end of it. But yes, people have asked, so I thought I'd just say that because it kind of needed saying. But yes, it is going well. We are doing well. It's getting closer.